Hi everybody, this is Kefren, your favorite French Canadian. Today I'm going to show you how to boost your FPS in Warhammer Space Marine 2. We're going to start by optimizing Windows and the NVIDIA parameter, and after that we will go inside of the game. So now for Windows, we're going to start by writing settings, and we're going to go to the settings of Windows 11. We're going to start by gaming over there. So the first one is game bar. This one I really recommend to deactivate it. It's causing issue, and also you're losing some FPS with it. Except if you have a Ryzen CPU, the 7900X3D or the 7950X3D, they're using the game bar to prioritize your CCD when you're playing video games. So super important to use that if you have those processors. If you have any other processor, just deactivate it. After that, we're going to go to graphic. We're going to change default graphic setting over there. Make sure that your hardware accelerated GPU scheduling is at on. Super important to do that. We're going to go to gaming again, capture, make sure that everything is deactivated like this. So you want to save all your resources. And the last one is game mode. Now game mode honestly is really good. Back then with Windows 10, it was a bit sketchy and a lot of like stuttering issue, but now you really need to using it to make sure that all your resources are prioritizing your video games. Another thing that I recommend, we're going to go to system, is your power. Back then, we were recommending to use the best performance, but now, honestly, just use balance. You will have better boost clock, longer boost clock. I did a couple of benchmark, balance versus best performance, and honestly, I'm getting better result with balance. So super important to do that. Another thing I want to mention is some recommendations. So make sure that your XMP profile is activated if you have it on your BIOS. Super important. Make sure that you download the latest chipset driver for your CPU if you have an AMD or Intel. Also, make sure that you update your BIOS to make sure that you have all the latest update from your CPU or your motherboard provider. Make sure that you have your Windows update up to date. And the last one is also make sure that you have the latest driver from your GPU. So if you have an NVIDIA card, Radeon, or Intel, super important. They always push new update and they optimize a lot of stuff in it. So now let's go to the NVIDIA app. The first thing that I want to recommend, I'm not a huge fan, honestly, of the overlay. So NVIDIA overlay, I really recommend to deactivate this one. Sometimes it's causing issue like stuttering, you're losing some FPS with it. So I really recommend to deactivate it. Also, we're gonna go to the control panel. I'm gonna show you some optimization that you can do. So we're gonna go to the manage 3D setting first. So the first thing that you should definitely activate it is your low latency mode. Make sure this one is at on. Another thing that I recommend is your power management mode. This one, pretty much the same thing than the one from Windows. Make sure that you're using normal. Don't use the maximum performance. I'm getting also better boost clock, more FPS with it. And the last one is your shader cache size. By default, your cache will be driver default like this. And normally it's 4 gig. I recommend to start with 10 if you don't have a lot of space on your computer. And if you have a lot of space, go with 100 gig. Honestly, it's a game changer for your cache size. You're going to struggle less with stuttering and also that your game need to recompile and stuff like that. If you install a lot of game, this one can be very good for you. Now let's go to change resolution. The last one, really important to make sure that first of all that you're selecting the monitor, that first of all you're using the native resolution of your monitor, and also super important to have a proper refresh rate over there. By default, sometimes when you just change your monitor, it will be at 60 Hertz. So depending on the type of monitor that you buy, 144, 240, make sure that you're selecting this one. This option also, you can change it on Windows or your Radeon driver if you have a Radeon card, so no problem with that. The last one is your G-Sync. If you want to activate your G-Sync, really important to select the monitor. It needs to be compatible and you will enable over there. I'm not using G-Sync me. I always unlock my FPS because I want the lowest input lag. But if you don't like those steering line, definitely activate your G-Sync over there. So now let's go back to the game. So now inside of the game, so first of all, make sure that you have your GPU over there. I know some people are playing on laptop, and sometimes you have the integrated GPU and your dedicated GPU, so make sure that you're using the dedicated one. If you have the issue that the game is in your wrong monitor, it was my case, you need to load your game first, and after that changing it, the Windows key plus the arrows doesn't work. I don't know why, so you really need to change over there. Display mode, I recommend to go with full screen. Honestly, borderless, you're adding a little bit of input lag and it's causing some weird stuttering. So for me, full screen is the best settings. Resolution, make sure that you're playing native. Render resolution, over there you have like different upscaling technique. Don't use TAA, the anti-aliasing TAA. It's too blurry in this game. So I recommend to go FSR or DLSS. For sure, if you have an RTX card, go with the DLSS. It's the best one. So I recommend to go with quality. Honestly, balance performance or ultra performance, the game is too blurry. At quality, you're gonna gain 10%. And for sure, if you want the best image quality, go with native. It's the DLAA from NVIDIA. This one is pretty great, but you're gonna lose 2%. If you have FSR, it's pretty much the same thing. Go with quality. You're gonna save 8% in your FPS. After that, I'm not activating VSync, so I don't want to add any input lag in my game. If you don't like your tearing line, you can definitely add it, but you will add a little bit of input lag. You can also use other technology like FreeSync or G-Sync to make sure that your GPU synchronize with your monitor. After that, motion blur intensity, I recommend to go with off. You don't want this. So in any game, honestly, I'm not a fan of motion blur. You will not save FPS, by the way. FPS limit, I just go with unlimited again to have like the lowest input lag possible. For sure, if you have thermal issue because you're playing on a laptop with a 60 Hz monitor, sometimes just lock your FPS at 60 or maybe 70. It will be better for you because when you have some thermal issue, you will have stuttering, so you don't want that. After that, for the quality settings, so first of all, texture, 8 gig and more you can play at VRAM, and when I say 8 gig, I'm meaning on your GPU, so VRAM, not your RAM. 6 gig of VRAM at high, 4 gig at medium, and less than 4 gig go with low. For shadow quality, this one is weird. Normally, you're getting more FPS with those settings. High to medium, you can expect 4%. Medium to low, I just saw 1% difference. So my recommendation is going at medium. And I will tell you which one will provide you the most of your FPS, but you will need to take decision because we all have different objectives. Some people just need 10 FPS to play at 60 because they just want to play at 60. So it really depends on your computer and what you want for your FPS. Screen space ambient occlusion, high to default, you're gonna save 4%, and at off another 4%. This one is kind of huge, but the thing is at off, the game looks not good. Honestly, it looks very flat, so my recommendation is stay as default. Screen space reflection, go with default. At off, you're gonna gain another 2%, but if you compare high to default, you're gonna gain 4%. So again, go with default. Volumetric, this one is huge. High to low, you can expect 10 to 12% FPS boost. So honestly, this one play at a low. Effect, I recommend to medium. High versus medium, a nice boost. The only thing is, if you're dropping like crazy with your FPS when you're fighting, it's probably because of particle effect. And if you have this issue, I recommend to go with low. If you don't, just stay at medium. Detail, you have 4 different brackets. Honestly, medium is a good one. You're going to gain a nice 5% boost in your FPS versus ultra. And the game looks decent at medium, so it's not an issue. Cloud simulation, you can play definitely at medium, except if you have like a very bad CPU and you know you're bottlenecking with your CPU, definitely test a low, because I did a test on my old Ryzen 2600 and honestly it helps a lot with the FPS. I was really surprised. So it's really like if you have a very old CPU, that's not very good for gaming. So this is pretty much it, guys, for my Warhammer Space Marine 2 guide. If you have any questions, just comment in the YouTube section. Post me your rig, CPU, GPU, and RAM. I will try to help you the best that I can. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Peace.